The second I saw the reveal trailer of South of Midnight in the 2023 Xbox Showcase, I said, I want to play that. I was so hooked. The art style, the setting, the vibe, I was just immediately drawn in, and I'm a sucker for an awesome single player experience exploring new interesting worlds. That's my shit. Of course, all these thoughts happened just off of a gameplay-less cinematic trailer. And now that I finished it, I can confidently say, Compulsion Games, the studio behind We Happy Few, did an amazing job in using the Deep South folklore to create an amazing world that is not only just beautiful to look at, but it's also seeping with culture and amazing vibes that I really enjoyed. But that is not to say that the game is perfect. It has a lot of issues that, once I noticed them after the spell this game put on me wore off, kept South of Midnight from being a true masterpiece. Now I want to be clear, and I might say it a lot. I really love this game, but I'm also self-aware enough to admit that I got caught up in the love, which made me forgive a lot of the not so great things about this game, which might be big red flags for others. So before we jump in, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Let's get into it. This gameplay was captured on Xbox Series S and features no spoilers, I think. In South of Midnight, you play as Hazel, whose house gets washed away by a hurricane with her mama inside it. I don't know why the way the house looks like floating away made me laugh. It was like an alternative Wizard of Oz. As she sets out to find her mama, she also discovers she's a weaver, someone who can see what others can't, magical strands that guide her to use magic to mend broken bonds and spirits. So along the way you run into characters and mythical Southern American legends that need healing, because of their trauma manifest in stigmas that are these red thorns that are usually blocking her way. So she must untangle her way through this gothic deep south to find her mama. The main hooks for me of this game are the visuals, the world, and the story. I am enthralled by these visuals. I'm just hypnotized by this world. I understand that players might not like the low frame rates in games because it makes it seem like there's a performance problem, but I didn't feel that way. The frame rate is mostly on the characters and I found it to be pretty smooth. It doesn't feel choppy at all. I even failed to notice it sometimes while playing. It is definitely more noticeable in the cutscenes. What really had me glued to the screen was this world. The environments were very cool to run around in. The Deep South setting was just used brilliantly. The gorgeous visuals with this awesome lighting are enchanting, and I can tell Compulsion Games cared. There's an effort there. There's thought, feeling put into this world, and that translates on screen. The world feels lived in. You can tell shit went down here. Not only the destruction by the hurricane, but there is lore behind every location. And I found it super intriguing. The whole fairy tale folklore vibe I really enjoyed, which made me want to know more about the world. There are a ton of readables you can find that give you some extra info about what's going on in the world with the specific characters that you're helping and the locations themselves. And I usually don't really care about readables in games, like they have to be really interesting for me to care, and I found myself reading every single one because I wanted to know more. I love the vibe and feel each character and creature brings to the game, and their designs were just awesome. They're like magnets to me. Catfish is awesome. He helps take Hazel to different parts during the journey, and he gives a little bit of backstory to some of the creatures she's about to deal with, and also spends a lot of time telling Hazel that what she's about to do is not a good idea. Most of these stories have tremendous heart. As you help out these creatures or characters, you're slowly learning about their story. They give you these flashback-like cutscenes finding out the source of their trauma, as you're slowly reading the stigma by bottling up these patterns. There's a lot of metaphors relating to dealing with trauma and the whole healing process, which I really enjoyed. But what I felt was missing was actually seeing these characters and creatures afterwards. I wanted to see them starting to feel, look, and act better. I wanted to see the fruits of my labor. How do they carry on after being healed? I wanted to see the impact of my actions to this world through the characters, not only just clearing out that one area. Instead, it's more just like, okay, we gotta move on because we gotta find mama. So as for our protagonist Hazel, I liked her. You can see her confidence slowly grow as she does more and more, but they do have her react out of pocket a few times just to move the story forward, which caught me off guard. But the game has tremendous voice acting. I really enjoyed it. One criticism I saw about the game is that it's too repetitive, and although it did take me a while to actually feel it because I was so into it, I must agree, it is very formulaic. You come into a new area, you do a combination of exploring, platforming, fighting, collecting, and then you end the level by running. So let's break these down. Although the game is super linear, there are corners you can turn away from the main objective to explore and find the aforementioned readables and floofs, which sounds like a made-up thing from Rick and Morty. Floofs are your shiny things that you collect to upgrade. Early on, going the opposite way that the strand shows would lead me to rewards, so I would see which way is the correct way to go and go the opposite and find a nook and cranny to find more floofs. But But then in some areas where that leads to mending and helping out the creatures and feature story time, I would see the story out of order. Like the sequence of the story would just be messed up. But I don't know, I'm just trying to find floofs, man. But this wasn't a big deal. The levels are designed in a way that always loops around. So let's say there's 3 story cutscenes, I would see the third one and then I would jump over to the first one and then see the second one. So there isn't a ton of freedom. Levels are designed tangly enough to make it feel like there's more to it. Some areas do open up a bit more, but they're usually pretty tight. Hazel can create things with her powers to help her move around the level, and later on she finds her childhood stuffed plush named Crouton, who she can control and send out into hard-to-reach places to find floofs and more tangles. I found the platforming to be really fun because of all the different traversals. You can double jump, glide, wall run, grapple, and fly in specific areas. Hazel feels very light, and I really had no depth perception issues, which I usually have in some games, but I did feel like the edges needed some tweaking. More often than not, she would clip on the ledge if you didn't land totally flush on the platform and do this little hoppy thing that would annoy me, making it not feel so smooth. The gliding felt pretty cool, but I did wish it lasted a bit longer. The wall running is smooth and you can control the verticality moving up and down along the wall. The grapple is pretty automatic and the flying parts were fun. I just felt like it needed more of the mixing of the different traversals, especially in the beginning. It's like they teach them to you one at a time and kind of forget to include the rest while still teaching the new one until you learn them all. But even still, with the platforming being such a part of the game, I wish that they mixed and matched a little bit more of the traversal. Like your grappling that sends you into a wall run that makes you double jump to grapple. It's all very tame. There is a little bit of sections like that, but I just wanted more of it. Like I would have loved some Crash Bandicoot level platforming. Maybe not as hardcore as the hardest levels of Crash, but whatever you consider the mid tier of Crash platforming, some of that would have greatly benefited this game. Especially in the chases. Like I said, once you're done or getting close to being done with the level, this shadow will chase you as you race to the bottle tree. The first time, everything is building tension, the music, the atmosphere, everything works together to make it feel like the cuckoo is going to get you. But after the first one, that feeling goes away. Not only because you know what to expect, but also because of how easy the platforming in the sections are. I literally found these kind of relaxing, and although I enjoyed them and it's nice to be relaxed, that's really the wrong feeling that you're supposed to be feeling in this moment. You should feel like you're half a block away of your house and you got to shit. You should feel anxious, scared, like something's creeping up behind you, because there actually is. And to do that, these needed to be a bit more challenging. There might be too much hand-holding for some people. I didn't think it was too bad until I read that the game describes itself as having puzzles, which I didn't think that what I was doing were puzzles. I don't really count throwing something to break another thing as a puzzle, but okay. It was just, I didn't feel like I was doing any puzzles while I was playing the game. I felt like I was moving things that were in my way. Puzzles feel rewarding once you complete them. I feel like they demand a certain amount of brain power, and these do not. And don't get me wrong, I didn't need them to be, because again, in my mind, they weren't puzzles. They were just things in the way. You really just break, push, and pull shit out of the way to proceed to the next thing or create something to get to where you need to go. I guess that is a puzzle. I don't know. I still count that as platforming. Now, moving to the final element of gameplay, combat. And I left it for the last because it's the most underwhelming part of the game. Hazel is equipped with her hooks. She can perform light and heavy attacks, and she can dodge. There aren't many combos to do really. She does have 5 abilities. She can freeze enemies for a second. She can pull enemies towards her or pull herself towards the bigger enemies. She can push them away, and using the push and pull, she can shoot these smaller insects at enemies. She also has a radius attack and has Crouton, who possesses the enemies to help you out. She gets a few upgrades with the floofs. She can ground and pound. There's an extra dodge, stuff that adds extra damage to her abilities, that type of stuff. It's just a very small and basic skill tree. Once you take an enemy down, you can unravel them to get a little bit of health, and that's honestly pretty much it. You run around, try not to get hit, and hit them. And I know that's every single game, but there really isn't much nuance to this combat. You can kill every enemy the same. There is no kill takedown or much design to the combat at all. Sometimes the enemies will do an uninterruptible attack. Their health bar goes yellow, so you just move it out of the way, wait for them to finish, do the little tantrum, and you come back to kick their ass. The abilities work on a cooldown, so if you use them all, you can't even use those. So you're just stuck to your light and heavy attacks until these build back up again. There isn't much variation to the enemies either. None of them make you strategize any differently. It's all pretty simple stuff. Run around, attack, and dodge. There is one enemy that shields his friends, but you just take him out and resume with your steady dose of button mashing and dodging. There are so many options to tweak the difficulty. I played it on normal for the first time, and I didn't die until chapter 5, and as you can tell by my gameplay, I suck ass. But I don't really think adjusting the difficulty would change much of the combat's experience. At first it's fine, and after a while you realize that's it. They're slowly injecting more enemies, but it doesn't become any more complicated. They added more to the traversal than they did to the combat. It's just missing more weapons, maybe some sort of projectile. I really felt the need to shoot something. And it's kind of like the same deal with the chases. They needed an excuse to mix and match the abilities. Maybe enemies having shields, you have to rip the shield away, or having to stagger them to deal extra damage, or perfect parry, effects, something. I know that's every game now with the whole parry and like Souls-like or whatever, but either come up with something different or use something that works, like an old school God of War or the Arkham system. I don't know, just something. Instead, they kind of chose nothing, which gives you pretty stale combat. The boss fights are cool because of everything revolving around it, and some of them you have to do like an extra step to open them up for an attack on their weak spot. But it's more the same, run around, dodge, and wait for your time to open them up for an attack. I really can't remember another time I was so accepting of like mid combat in a game. Maybe it's because I see the potential. You know, you can even use the same type of elements, just tweaking the combat and adding more to it, and I feel like it would be great. Also, maybe because I never felt the combat was a huge selling point for the game to me, so that's why I didn't put much credence to it. So I don't feel like I was falsely advertised. It's not the worst combat ever, but it's just kind of uninspiring, and with everything else going on for the game, it's a little bit of a letdown. I am being really transparent about this because I understand this can be a huge issue for players. I mean, it's gameplay, I get it. But for me, in this case, I just saw it as just one facet of the game because I was just so captivated by everything else around the game. Everything else really kept me engaged the whole time. The setting, the visuals, the world, the story, and the glue that keeps it all together, even in the boss fights, is the music. I loved the music. I would be very surprised if this does not win some type of award by the end of the year. And in the boss fights, the songs are telling the story, sounding like old school Disney villain music. Now, you can take that as you like, but I enjoyed that. I found it to be a fun way to use the music. They're not all bangers. Some of them I was like, okay, I get it. Others I really, really like. So it is a mixed bag.
I said goodbye, I said farewell, I took my hammer, my ticket to hell.
I did play this the day it launched, and I had a few bugs and even crashes. A couple times the sound would just cut out. One time it crashed loading up a chapter, and another time I had this thing attached to my feet, and I don't know what it was supposed to be, like part of the jump effect and it like glitch or something, I don't know. And more hilariously, this one character did not load in, so I was talking to no one, and then he just became a floating cigarette. So although kind of disappointing, it's nothing that makes the game unplayable, but they did happen, so I have to let you know. There are 14 chapters in the game. You can finish it around 12 to 15 hours depending on how you play, and the last chapter is really just to tie up the loose ends. The 13th chapter is really where the final boss happens, so that screwed up the pace a little bit for me. I see many people calling it a short game, but I think its $40 price tag more than justifies it, especially since other platforms are going to want more than double that. So this is going to be less and less the norm of $40 launch games. I really think that the price should reflect of how many quality hours you're going to spend in the game. Maybe that's a discussion for a different video. The South of Midnight is a good old-fashioned single-player experience, and it is what I like to play. I was super hyped for this game, and although it took some time for me to see and admit that this game has very big issues, I still wasn't disappointed by the game. Take a shot if you heard me say this already. The vibes, the music, the characters, the story, and the world really kept me playing. I know it sounds like I'm mentioning everything except the actual gameplay, but those things are so good to me that they carried the game. But I still enjoyed most of the gameplay elements. It was just needed a bit more. So if you're someone who's into games that have awesome world building, a heartfelt story, interesting characters, fun traversal, and meh combat, then I say check it out. I really enjoyed South of Midnight for what it did right. So much so that what it did wrong didn't actually bother me so much. But that was my experience. Let me know yours down in the comments. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why and why not? Let me know, and while you're down there, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to always and forever, you do you.